The Indiana Fever are not messing around this WNBA offseason. Huge overhaul of the organization as they move into the big time. A new team president in the door, a new general manager in the door, and now a new head coach in the door as Christie Sides was shown the door. And it just shows you that professional sports is a tough business. I mean, Sides was the coach of a team that got to the playoffs for the first time since 2016, was the coach of the team that turned around from a rough 1-8 start, was the coach of a team that dealt with unprecedented attention in the WNBA. But it feels like the Fever believe they need a new voice on the sideline in order to get to that next step, to that championship level, which they're not playing around with. Clearly, they're taking it very seriously. And I think it's a combination of two things, right? You have new management who comes in, and generally new management wants to hand select a GM and a coach. The GM's already been hired. Now it feels like a new coach, or we know a new coach is on the way. And it feels like that's going to be Stephanie White from the reports that have been out there. We'll see when that is confirmed. The second thing is Caitlin Clark. I'm not saying she had anything to do directly with Christie Sides being dismissed, but I have to imagine if Caitlin Clark was adamant that Christie Sides was going to stay, she'd still be the Fever coach. And Sides was a little reluctant to hand the keys over to Clark. When she finally did is when the Fever started rolling, and now the organization is building the entire franchise around Caitlin Clark. She's got the skeleton keys at this point and is going to be allowed to put her foot on the gas whenever she wants. And that's where we're at right here in the midst of a, massive offseason shakeup. I think Sides, a lot of y'all are going to be happy, right? Like, I get it. There's probably a party going on in the comments section right now, as Sides was a big point of contention amongst Fever and Clark fans. Now, some of that was earned. Again, some of the comments she made about Clark early in the season where she seemed to throw her under the bus, the reluctance to play fast and wanted to play in the inside out kind of way. And eventually, though, I'll give her credit. She eventually relented. Eventually, she stopped starting Christy Wallace. Eventually, she put Lexi Hull into the starting lineup. Eventually, she even benched Melissa Smith. All those things took a little bit of time. But clearly, you've got the new voices in. And I said when that happened, if you're Christie Sides and Lynn Dunn, your head needs to be on a swivel, because I've been around enough reorgs to know when new management come in, they want to handpick who they put in charge. It's their regime. They want their stamp on it. They don't want the other regime still running things. So you've got Kelly Crosscup and Amber Cox now in. Lynn Dunn is slid off to a senior advisor role, and Christie Sides is gone. And, I knew Christie Sides was probably gone when that Stephanie White report from the Chicago Sun-Times came out. When the Fever were directly linked in talks to Stephanie White, that was a sign that Sides was on the way out. And just because that information is probably not getting out there, if the Fever hadn't already made that decision internally, and if Christie Sides maybe didn't already know at that point in time, it just wasn't made official. Stephanie White has the ties to the Fever organization as a player and a coach, is a winning coach, was in that Caitlin Clark congratulatory Iowa video, as I said. So there's just so many different things that lead you to believe Stephanie White very well could be the next head coach of the Indiana Fever. I'm not sure, not certain. We'll see when that news officially does come down. I believe Amber Cox starts as the GM tomorrow in an official capacity. Here's what the team actually had to say about dismissing Christie Sides. Let me pull up the release that went out. I was, it's not unexpected, but it's still shocking whenever you see news like that. I thought it was a matter of time after that other report. I don't need to save the money right now. Let's see. The Indiana Fever announced on Sunday that the organization has parted ways with head coach Christie Sides. We are incredibly thankful to Coach Sides for embracing the challenge of leading us through an integral transition period over the last 2 seasons, while also positioning us well for future growth, said Fever President of Basketball Operations Kelly Crosscup. While decisions like these are never easy, it is also imperative that we remain bold and assertive in the pursuit of our goals, which includes maximizing our talent and bringing another WNBA championship back to Indiana. Coach Sides was an incredible representative of the Fever and our community, and we wish her nothing but success in the future. In 2 years as head coach, Sides posted a 33-47 regular season record, and last season she helped lead the Fever to their first postseason appearance since 2016. In addition to aiding in the development of back-to-back WNBA Rookies of the Year, Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark, Sides became the first coach in franchise history to be named WNBA Coach of the Month. That was in August. Again, clearly they don't think she's the coach for Clark and this team and that style and where they're going. Because the Indiana Fever are now one of the premier organizations in sports. When you talk about the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics in the NBA, and you talk about the Dallas Cowboys and the Kansas City Chiefs, teams like that in the NFL, the Yankees and the Dodgers in MLB. When it comes to the WNBA, it's the Indiana Fever. I mean, you have the Aces, you have the Liberty, of course. But as far as just general notoriety, the Fever are there now. And the Fever are positioned to compete for a championship immediately. There needs to be no ramp-up period. They've got Clark, who I believe going into next year will establish herself as the best player in the league and the MVP. They've got Boston, who's a super intelligent player, a big, who can do a lot of things, great passer, can score, obviously, great footwork. They've got Kelsey Mitchell, who's an electric scorer, a perfect complement to Clark as a player who can go get her own bucket, also shot the three well on the spot ups last year. They've got Lexi Hull, who's sort of that energy player, do-it-all player who turned herself into a real sharp shooter. The rest of the roster beyond that can be bolstered. But if you look at their cap table, it looks pretty good. Katie Lou Samuelson's making too much money. It is what it is. But other than that, once they re-sign Kelsey Mitchell, who is a free agent, they still can make one more premier acquisition, and that's without the other role players coming in. And clearly, this new regime that came in had a plan, wasn't worried about hurting feelings too much. These are the tough things that come along with the business, and they made the move. They wasted really no time. And now they've got plenty of time to put this thing together before the next WNBA season starts. And business is picked up with the Indiana Fever. This is an organization that is behaving very seriously. And of course, as you saw in the statement, they are behaving like an organization that is trying to get to a championship level now. Not 2 weeks from now, not a couple, 2 weeks from now actually is a bad example because they got time to do that. Not 2 years from now, but right now.